Watch the F and Marks podcast live on Facebook, Fridays at 6:30.
Yeah? Welcome, everyone, to episode 295 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the F and Marks, and I am the Brainless One, and we are waiting for Jay to hop in here any moment now, but I wanted to get something off my chest really quickly. All right? There's a few things in wrestling I really do enjoy, like full-heartedly enjoy, and one of the things I do enjoy is the best friends in AEW. And I just so happened to be watching AEW Dynamite this week because, rule of thumb, if Orange Cassidy and Danhausen are on the show, the Brainless One's going to be tuned in. That and the fact that we got that banger of a match between, Brian Danielson. Go. Boom. But I was curious to, honestly, you all know me, how I feel. So, yeah?
Yeah!
What's up, Jay?
Oh, you know what? Just when you don't, you think it's gotten as crazy as it's going to be, the next week says, hold my beer.
And
holy smokes, I have two things fantasy booked for this. Two things fantasy booked that I'd like to see happen.
Okay. Really quickly, I have to ask you this question because it has been on my mind, and you know me, if I don't get it out when I can, I'm not going to remember. And I have been holding on to this thing for dear life all day because I said I'm not going to write it down because I'm going to remember what it is. So here it is, and I'm glad, Timmy's in. I saw Chris Brown was in. Mike Rainey's in. I'm going to ask you this. I already asked the effing wife, and she agrees with me on this, and I'm curious what your thought is this. 2 weeks away from the Royal Rumble. You and I are betting men. I give you either Cody Rhodes or the rest of every other wrestler that enters the Royal Rumble. Do you take Cody Rhodes or do you take the field as of right now, 2 weeks before the Royal Rumble?
I am going to take the field.
Okay.
And my one thing with this is I believe The Rock may be there, and this may be The Rock's way of getting into the WrestleMania match. Because I don't think he has anything to do as far as a movie at this point. I know a lot of what he's doing now is going to be gearing up for XFL, but we haven't seen him do much since Black Adam, and I don't think he's had anything on his movie schedule.
I don't know. I disagree. I think right now, as of 15 days from the Royal Rumble, I'm betting Cody Rhodes. I don't know what it is. I just got this gut feeling. It's Cody. And I asked the effing wife, I'd like to get everyone else's opinion. Would you take Cody Rhodes or would you take the field in the Royal Rumble? And and honestly, after the podcast, I'm going to post this on Twitter, and I want to see what everyone's responses is on there. I'm really am curious to see. Is it a foregone conclusion? Because the way that – what's up, Jessica? Because the way that they've been kind of doing these promos and these video packages for Cody Rhodes, rebuilding Cody Rhodes, obviously they're going to do something with him at the Royal Rumble. I think anything – honestly, anything short of him winning the Royal Rumble and main eventing WrestleMania with the way that they're doing this would be just an absolute – and – why did you bring him back and gave him that grand entrance and return? And I think he's the guy you just give The Rock to because this is his opportunity. And obviously I said The Rock because he's the ultimate wild card.
And that is the only reason why I went with the field. If The Rock was not a potential as part of the field, I would say Cody. Hands down, I'll take Cody. But because of The Rock being the wild card, and I'm leaning, like 51% that he will be there at the Royal Rumble, I have to go with that.
Okay. Now let me ask you this: if it's not Cody and it's not The Rock, or let's say it is either Cody or The Rock or whoever it is, Theory, Brock Lesnar, anybody but Shane McMahon winning the Rumble. I just, if Sami Zayn doesn't win it, is it a bigger letdown or equal to what happened with the almost near missed opportunity they had with Daniel Bryan in 2014? Because there's similarities between them. And if you know, and everybody knows history repeats itself. Sami Zayn is white hot. And if he doesn't win the Rumble, what do you do?
The way the way you book yourself out of it, and I think this would be the perfect way to do it, is let's say the final four is The Rock, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, and Sami Zayn. And Jay and Sami look like they're about to team up to go against the other two, and Jay turns around and throws Sami out of the match. Right there, you immediately get the entire crowd fired up at Jey Uso, and you get the fracture with the bloodline there, and you set up Captain Cupcake versus
Turner.
And Sami Zayn versus Jey Uso and Jimmy and Jey Uso at WrestleMania.
I don't know, Jay. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and nothing against them winning the tag team championships. I have no issue with the team of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn winning the tag team championships. I've been saying it for years. It should be tag team champions. Them winning the tag team, in my mind, Sami Zayn not winning the Universal Championship, at least at WrestleMania, is a giant letdown.
Right.
And I don't know how they would do it because, again, the similarities between, it's just so eerie how similar it is. Like, Sami Zayn is Daniel Bryan red hot right now. So I think it's something to think about. That's all. And it's honestly, I'm sorry, it's been on my mind, and I really just I know that if I don't remember it, I'm gonna forget. And I'm like, I have to ask you when I remember because I'm brainless and it's not a gimmick.
Right.
Speaking of brainless, do you want to just get into Vince McMahon? That just sounds so terrible.
This whole fiasco has been something else. I mean, you want to talk about somebody who just threw a bomb in the locker room, threw a bomb in the boardroom, threw a bomb in every portion of everything. Vince McMahon 8 days ago came back to WWE, and less than 5 days later, Stephanie resigned. Mind you, Stephanie was on a call with all of the, well, it wasn't the talent, it was all the employees, specifically saying, hey, nothing is going to change with the management. And quite literally, less than a week later, she being chief among the management is gone. Clearly, like, there are a few things going into this. Probably more than a few. Vince wanted her out, so she's out. As much as they were using I left the company all those months ago because I wanted more time with my family, and it's time for me to go back to that. Mm-hmm. They're using that, and I don't have any belief that that's true in any way, shape, or form. It's her dad being back. Apparently, her and her dad, when they're working very close with one another, don't get along very well. I think they're very similar to each other. I mean, they call her the Vincess. So, and the very quick news about a potential sale to the Saudi group, I think, is the biggest piece of this. Saudi Arabia, the government, the country, just treats women like second-class citizens.
Yep. So
if WWE, Vince McMahon, are trying to get top dollar for the company, and Stephanie is part of a board, and she's co-CEO of this company, I think Vince would believe that the Saudi government would not want to negotiate or would devalue the company based off having a female co-CEO. And I think, in part, this is my belief, that is why Vince probably did stuff to force her out.
And it really does. I mean, all the pieces fit perfectly for that to be the case. But then it came out that these rumors were just that, rumors. You know, people reached out to people inside WWE and claimed that there was no deal in place with the Saudis, and that Nick Khan was off having meetings with Disney and all these other high potential bidding companies that want the rights to WWE. To the point where the rumor is that the heavy favorite heading into the clubhouse as of right now to buy WWE, I'm sure it's going to change because this is how negotiations go and this is how a bidding process goes. Right now, the heavy favorite going into the clubhouse is Disney.
Now, an interesting tidbit Chris Brown sent to me right before the show is that if Disney are the ones who end up buying WWE, they do not want Vince as part of the company in any way, shape, or form, and the same goes for Comcast.
Yep.
So there's that going on. So originally, the kind of valuation of WWE was, I think, like $6.5 billion. That being said, Wall Street said selling the company, their belief is the company was going to get between, I think it was 7.5 to 8.3 billion.
Wow.
For it. But also within the article I read that Vince was trying to get 8.5 billion for it. And if they're trying to get 8.5 billion, I mean, I think all of the different names listed as primaries can pay that.
Right.
If they want to. The Saudi government has almost a $500 billion at their disposal. If they want to overpay, they can.
Overpay, yep.
And not bat an eye about it. If that happens, and I've had this conversation with a few people offline, if the Saudis buy WWE, I will cease to watch WWE, and I will cease to comment on WWE in this podcast. I hope to hell that it's not the Saudis to buy. I still enjoy WWE, but I would not be able to support a company owned by them.
And especially because of the fact that we all know that if the Saudis buy the company, that the first person that's gone is Sami Zayn.
And probably the women's division.
And the entire women's division. So, honest to goodness, that is a bad move by WWE if they were to sell to the Saudis. And it's just funny because here we are, because at the beginning of the week when all this was starting to unfold and there was the possible discussion that they were going to be sold to the Saudi Arabian government or the Saudi prince, and then now we're here to Disney, and we went from Mansoor becoming the guy who beats Ric Flair for the most title reigns in the history of wrestling to John Cena and Mickey Mouse.
Right. And the other thing with the Saudi deal is there's potential for Vince McMahon to get back into control of the company. He could be the one running the company. He could be the one running creative, and the Saudis want to take the company private, which means Vince McMahon could sexually assault, abuse, or whatever, and it won't be on any public record. He won't get investigated for anything unless, you know, like if people sign NDAs, we won't ever hear about them, and it won't be a problem. So,
honest to goodness, I know that the rumors are going around that Stephanie and Triple H are not happy about the potential sale because they don't want the company to be sold by the family.
Right.
If I was Triple H, I'm sorry. I'm going to all those negotiations with Nick Khan. And I'll tell you why. Because Disney is not, like you said, Disney's not going to want to do business with Vince. Comcast is not going to want to do business with Vince. I'm sure if Triple H made a good pitch to Fox and they decided to be the highest bidder, he could be like, well, look at what I've done with the product. Look at how I've presented Gunther. Gunther is our future star. You buy the company from Vince and you keep me in charge, I promise you I can give you the product that you deserve. And I know a lot of people have been skeptical because not all of Triple H's moves have worked out. Name me a coach who's not Bill Belichick, who has had every single free agent signee that they brought in all immediately fit in, all the draft picks fit in perfectly without any issue from one or two people. It doesn't happen.
Right.
There's always it's we're not the 2018 Boston Red Sox here. You know, we're not running on all cylinders. There's shit that happens. Karrion Kross, I don't know. The verdict is still out on him.
So far, it's a fail, but he's so young, and he has a look, and he has a vibe about him that could take him to become a true star at some point.
But my big thing would be is that if I'm Triple H, you just present all of the good pieces that you've done, and you say, you give me the time to come out here and just detoxify what my father-in-law did to the product. I promise you it's going to get better. And for the love of God, do not sell the company to Shad and his baby boy, Tony. Even Sheba didn't even like it when I said that.
I have different feelings about that. All that being said, the Khans are interested in buying WWE, and they're also interested in taking the company private. So here are a couple of fantasy bookings I came up with today for the potential sale to the Khans of WWE that I would like to present to you and our audience.
Oh, here we go.
First, fantasy booking.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
And let's see. Is the Super Bowl in 4 weeks?
4 or 5, something like that.
In 4 weeks, when the Jacksonville Jaguars come off the field as Super Bowl champions, and Chad and Tony Khan are on that podium with the Vince Lombardi trophy, they announce their purchase of WWE. Triple H comes out to the field with the WWE title with the Jaguars insignias on both sides. They announced the sale in front of the largest audience they would ever possibly have. Then, on TV, they end up cooking up a storyline that Nick Khan and Tony Khan and Shad Khan got together, and you find out they were the ones that leaked the information to the Wall Street Journal, and they say, "It was me, McMahon! It was me the whole time!" And they turn it into a storyline. I'm telling you, book both of those things right now, and you will get a renewed interest in professional wrestling like you've never seen before. You keep Triple H on as the head of creative. You keep WWE as it is, and AEW is as it is, and we will have our World Series of professional wrestling because Tony Khan will throw open the forbidden door and we'll have New Japan versus WWE versus AEW versus PWG versus Impact Wrestling. It's going to be the greatest thing ever.
Okay.
Chris Brown, I am going to put a slight twist into what you're saying. What I read is similar to what you are saying, but it said that Vince McMahon may offer some ideas to me. Vince McMahon may offer ideas to Triple H, but Triple H has the final say.
Oh, God. Sean Sapp. Oh, don't even get me started on Sean Sapp, please. I don't want to talk about Sean Sapp.
So basically, Triple H is saying that Vince is passing along ideas for creative, but Triple H has the final say.
No.
So, I mean, I hope that's the truth, but what that's telling me is that Vince is already, I mean, he went from, yep, I'm just here to facilitate the sale, to all of a sudden, Stephanie's gone. He brings two of his own people into the board, and basically the board got wiped out from what it was, and now all of a sudden, oh, well, he's giving me ideas for creative.
Now,
right.
Now, I have to go back to your thought on Tony Khan and Shad purchasing WWE. Now, I want you to know how vehemently against I am of having Kenny Omega anywhere near a WWE ring. He's not, no. The only way I would sign off on this is for two things. Number one, they have to do a Being the Elite, and it has to be a live stream when Kenny Omega and Brock Lesnar first cross paths backstage. And my only other stipulation is if they are going to do this and they make the announcement at the Super Bowl and they're going to have Triple H come out to the field to put the championship belt around, it'd probably be Tony, because Shad, he would go to give the belt to Shad and Tony'd be like, no, Hunter, you have to put it around my waist. Now, that's not even what I want. What I want, though, is I want them to get the hologram of Lemmy and Motorhead from WrestleMania 17, and I want that to be playing as Triple H comes out to the field with the WWE Championship with the Jaguars, logos on the plates. Those are my two rules. My demands are very simple on that. I was a lot more cooperative than I thought.
What do you think about my two booking ideas, though?
I think it's good. So that's why I know it's not going to work. If they did the whole thing where they fucking did the whole, I am the evil leader. It was me, Austin. I'm the higher power. Yes, of course. Because history repeats itself, and I would love to see that. But I'm going to tell you this much right now. Tony and Shad, this is my only warning. Do not make a bid on the WWE. I have money that I could put on the Jacksonville Jaguars to win the Super Bowl right after this podcast. Walk away, and the Jaguars don't lose. I'm not somebody to trifle with. But it's funny. Hold on, Jay. I love the fact you did that fantasy booking, because before the podcast, I also came up with some fantasy booking. But it has nothing to do with the Khans buying the WWE. Oh, no. And we're going to get this right out of the way real quick. I thought about what would happen if Disney bought WWE. And not only did I think about that, I actually came up with a card. I came up with, and this was, I punted on my top 10 list and went to this because this one was easier to do. Top 10 Forbidden Doors. WWE versus Disney. Number 10, give me Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus From the Emperor's New Groove, Emperor Cusco and Pacha.
Yeah.
Number 9.
Alexa Bliss is Tinkerbell. That's good. Sorry, Brainless One.
That's fine. Alexa Bliss is Tinkerbell. Number 9, give me the New Day versus Buzz Lightyear and Woody. Number 8, Randy Orton. Can't leave Randy Orton off of this list. I like to see Randy Orton versus Jafar for 2 reasons. Number 1, Jafar definitely needs an RKO. But number 2, if I remember correctly, Jafar is also turned into a snake in the first Aladdin movie. I'm not just a mark for wrestling people. Yeah. Number 7, you can't forget about Charlotte Flair, the reigning SmackDown Women's Champion. I'd like to see her go up against Maleficent to see who the biggest bitch was. Charlotte Flair would definitely make her tap out. Is Jafar the... No, Jafar was... Oh, my God. I can't believe this is...
No, he was like the evil dude with the turban with the black and red.
I can't believe we're talking about Aladdin in a wrestling podcast.
A whole new world.
Wow. But anyway, I would still say Charlotte Flair makes her tap.
WWE will be.
And I'm saving number 1 perfectly for you, Jay, and you know this.
Woo, woo, woo.
Now, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns would have to go up against Maui from the movie Moana. Funny fact, Maui was voiced by...
the millions and millions of The Rock's fans. Yeah.
Number 5. This match would just be fun. Bobby Lashley versus Hercules. I think it would just that'd be entertaining. And then I get to number 4, and it would have to be a special booked match. Give me Bray Wyatt versus Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
But not any wrestling match. I want them to split it into 2 rounds where they spend half of the match in Oogie Boogie's lair and the other half in the Firefly Funhouse. And then we get lock, stock, and barrel, and then we can have all the puppets in the Firefly Funhouse. But number 3, you can't leave the power couple out. Either one of them. Give me Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch versus Mickey and Minnie Mouse.
Okay.
I want to see what Seth Rollins wears to the ring in that match.
Oh, that would be something.
Number 2, give me Brock Lesnar and Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. No apparent reason other than the fact that there's nobody in the history of Disney I'd like to see go to Suplex City more than Gaston. And the number 1 matchup in the WWE Disney crossover. Give me John Cena versus Darth Vader.
I'll take that.
How do you book that match?
Well, I mean, Darth Vader needs to win, even though I mean, John Cena may kick out at 2, but when he gets his head cut off from a lightsaber, I don't think he kicks out.
I do.
So one match that I want to put in here, if it ends up being Disney and WWE here, not that it's a character currently. What if we get Pirate Paul Burchill versus Captain Jack Sparrow? And a loser loses their one eye match.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that is good. Oh, that is such good shit. And honestly, I'm sorry. there is nobody in the Disney realm that is going to beat John Cena in a one-on-one match, because I have learned in my almost 35 years of watching professional wrestling, I know three things, and one of them is roses are red, violets are blue. No matter how many finishers you hit that motherfucker with, John Cena is kicking out at 2. Can
we get Yoda versus like Little Beaver?
I'm sorry, Jay, Little Beaver's dead.
Well, then cross him off.
Oh! I cheers to you, sir, on that one. That was a good one. I like it. That was dynamite dropping, Monty. Those journalism schools are really paying off.
There you go. Yoda versus Hornswoggle. Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways we could go, and I'm just throwing this out there. Being an old school fan, would the new company be interested in trying to talk with the World Wildlife Fund and getting the name back to WWF? Or do you think the E brand is such a big thing right now that it would ruin it for like the younger generation? Because I mean, they got the F out 20 years ago.
Tim says no. I think they should stay. They stay with WWE. I'm sorry. When they describe themselves as sports entertainment, because no matter what, they're sports entertainment. That is what the definition of sports entertainment is predetermined. So it's predetermined sports, I should say. I don't see it. No.
Okay.
I don't think it's really, honestly, it's really not. I don't think it really is worth it to try to get WWF, because why would World Wildlife Federation? They'll have to change their whole name.
No. Like back in the day, they had an agreement with Vince. Hey, you can still use WWF. There are certain things you can't do, and Vince constantly crossed the line, and they were kind to him for a while, and then finally they're like, enough. You've done stuff that has crossed the line. So,
as the ultimate creature of habit, no, don't change it from WWE back to WWF, even though there are times I still call it WWF. It's force of habit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk on the Vince front? Anything else on the buyers or anything like that?
So one thing I found really interesting within the news of Vince, in December, when the governing board of WWE met and Vince was trying to find his way back into the company, it was voted unanimously no, which includes Triple H, Stephanie, Nick Khan, and I think there's one other current board member that possibly was there, voted no. How was it all of a sudden a couple of weeks later, unanimously, he's voted back in and he's the executive chairman of the board?
Because all Vince has to do is get all the people he needs to make it happen, and Vince can do what he wants. Because they gave him, because I don't know, I don't think
he owns the controlling stake in the company. Now, all that being said, it is illegal to stack a board with people that will just agree with you.
Yep.
And because of that, there is a lawsuit in Delaware by a shareholder of WWE stock that is coming after Vince for what's being done.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting, and I think this person's probably right, but in the end,
ain't gonna matter.
Thank you, Lincoln Park.
I tried so hard and got so far. In the end, it doesn't
even matter.
Because we all know, remember this, Jay. Martha Hart sued Vince McMahon for the death of her husband. Didn't Vince McMahon file a countersuit against her? The man has no moral grounds at all. At the end of the day, Vince McMahon only cares about one thing: himself. I thought it was money, but it's really Vince McMahon. He only cares about himself. That's why his wife is hanging out with Donald Trump, and God only knows where the fuck Shane McMahon is. Speaking of Shane, real quick, I found out that motherfucker got paid $855,000 for that shit bomb Royal Rumble that we got last year.
Wow.
$855,000. Thank you to the Solid Monster, by the way, for bringing that. And that's the only reason I found out, and I have to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
He was the one that said $855,000 for the worst Royal Rumble in the history of the Royal Rumble. I'm sorry, I just had to mention that. And I think it's funny, and I'm glad that somebody's actually finally trying to stand up to Vince McMahon in this lawsuit. But we all know how it's going to end.
He's got Jerry McDevitt.
That man that's Wayne Gretzky. That's Michael Jordan. Nobody's stopping that guy. Nobody.
Yeah?
Yeah. Really quickly, though, since we did mention Stephanie, it was announced that she posted, actually, she had ankle surgery. Apparently, she was scheduled to have the surgery before she got brought in to be the co-CEO and the chairwoman of WWE. And now that she has resigned, she's like, oh, now I have time to have the surgery. And now people are like, oh, well, it wasn't just her resigning. No, it's just a nice cover-up, so it's not that big of a story.
Right.
So,
right.
I believe, in my heart of hearts, I believe Stephanie and Triple H do not want to sell the company. And that's it. That's my honest, full opinion on the whole situation. Vince McMahon wants to sell it because he wants to make money and wants to be Vince McMahon. And Triple H and Stephanie want to see and make WWE better, and they were on that right path, and now Vince went and fucked it up.
It's not what I want.
It is when a billionaire is running a wrestling company for one fan, himself.
Right. All right.
Wow. How do we segue? Oh, do you have anything? Do you want to go to next, or do you want me to pick something?
You know what? I'm going to pick something because I know it might incite you.
Oh, here we go. This. This is great. I love it because I'm already feeling a certain kind of way because we just talked about Vince and possibly selling to whoever.
There is something out there that one of your favorite former female wrestlers, Eva Marie, may be possibly on her way back to WWE. What are your thoughts, Brainless One?
Why? That's my only question. Why? Why is she coming back? Why is she needed? She's not needed. What does she bring to the table?
She needs to conclude her storyline with Doudrop, even though Doudrop's out with what is Doudrop injured?
Doudrop has visa issues. That was because I guess a lot of people from NXT were also having like Tyler Bate. That's why he wasn't around.
JD McDonough.
And luckily Gallus got theirs figured out because they came back, and I was happy to see Gallus on.
Gallus, it rhymes with Dallas, man.
Gallus is my favorite tag team and shit.
Well, I'm gonna Tim, and I don't mean to be fresh, but I think Kevin Dunn probably wouldn't give a good one because those teeth are going to bite down and it's not going to be very comfortable.
Yeah, you don't want to have a Woody in front of Kevin Dunn. He's going to turn it into a dam.
Damn.
But no, I don't really want to see Eva Marie. There's no reason for her to be there. Why? She doesn't bring anything to the table. They don't need to close the door on the fucking Dewdrop storyline because she doesn't have to come back as Dewdrop. All she has to do is come back as Piper Niven, and we don't care. In fact, if you want, have her come out there with a bunch of instruments and say, hello, I'm Piper Niven. And you don't have to worry about Dewdrop ever showing up or Eva Marie, because fuck them both. I would be on board with that. I don't need to see Eva Marie because I know what'll happen, Jay. Because then they'll re-sign her. And then she's going to be on my TV. And the worst part is we'll be on this podcast on Fridays. And not only just that, you'll be texting me constantly going, when do you think Nia Jax is coming back? Just because I know in my heart of hearts if there was anybody who's going to predict something like that and then happen at, WrestleMania, get Nia Jax versus Eva Marie.
No. My prediction is Nia Jax and Eva Marie at the Royal Rumble in a few weeks. So you'll have like a double-tism because they don't have enough women to fill the Rumble match, so they need to, go back to their, legends like Eva Marie and Nia Jax. And Nia will be there because, her cousin, The Rock, said, you know what, Nia, you need to go out on a better note. And Nia will probably end up, breaking Becky's nose and doing something to Ronda Rousey, and then Ronda will actually, do something the hard way on Nia Jax, whether it's break her arm or put the ankle lock on, and or maybe actually break her hull.
I am not going to state how I feel about Nia Jax. If you want to know how I really feel, because
go on the YouTube
how I feel.
page.
Go to our YouTube.
Go on the YouTube page.
There is a very special video, probably our most loved video on social media, of me. Her other hole. My hole. That's how I feel about Nia Jax. Just go to the YouTube page and watch it. I've watched it at least 7, 8, 20 times.
And your prediction came true.
Which one?
The one about her blowing out her ACLs.
Jay, I don't even know if I even... Yeah, I want to take claim to that. If you take the Punjabi prison, I'm still going to take Nia Jax's ACLs, yes. Not like all 3 racehorses that you claim that I have killed over the years, but I will definitely claim Nia Jax.
The third one was a plow horse.
Yes, the horse at Northampton Fair was the one that was plowing the fields the day before. It's not my... It was 8. It was 8 years old and plowing fields. The guy who was plowing the fields behind him with the thing... Oh, God. Nia Jax versus Omega. But the guy who was behind him with the plow as he's plowing the fields was his jockey, too. Okay? Nothing counts when you go to a track and the jockey who goes a perfect 5 for 5 on every mount he was on had the first name Bubba. All bets are off. No pun intended. But yes, no, I don't want to see Nia Jax. No, I don't want to see Eva Marie. No. And if I see them both in the Royal Rumble, it's because you said it was gonna happen. And then I'm gonna cry. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm so happy that
You're welcome.
Oh, God.
Speaking of people that were let go from WWE, this week on the Tamron Hall show, Mandy Rhodes made an appearance and spoke for the very first time about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And based off what she said, it sounds like she was never told that her page was a problem, and she wasn't told that that was the reason why she was fired. To me, that it sounds even shittier than what we imagined.
Now, my big thing is that she did say that the door is still open for a WWE return. But in regards to her page, if her page becomes a problem, she said that's for a different discussion. Meaning it's going to take a lot for WWE to get Mandy Rose to drop that page. And frankly, I don't blame her. With the amount of money she's making on it, and she's not, like we've said, she's not beating herself up anymore, and she's making a good living. And her fiance, husband, boy, I think it's fiance, unlike Baron Corbin, actually played in the NFL. Not suited up and gave high fives to Pat McAfee on the sidelines. So I understand. If she doesn't go back, I understand. But eventually, I think time heals all wounds, and it'll all get, amends will be made. And you know what? This is their own fault with all these lack of women. They didn't have to release Mandy Rose. I'm just saying.
Right.
And now, on top of it, I do know that they had a battle royal to determine Roxanne's first opponent, and it just so happens that both Gigi Dolan and JC Jane fell out of the ring at the same time. For the love of God, please do not ruin the rest of Toxic Attraction for the Brainless One. Oh, every time they get a tag team, whether it's in the men's or the women's division, especially the women's division, they take it and they rip it out of the Brainless One's chest, and it bothers me because I love tag team wrestling. Vince and I don't see the eye on that. I love tag team wrestling. So if this leads to them breaking up, I'm going to be pissed. If this is just like, hey, we have nothing else for you guys because we fired your leader, but God, I really don't, because I actually like them as a tag team, and you have a tag team championship on the main roster with not enough tag teams that you even use them in the tournament to determine the tag team championships. What are we going to get now? Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Please. God. No. No.
No! Speaking of former WWE female wrestlers, apparently, and this is incredible, not even 2 weeks in, apparently Sasha Banks, now known as Mercedes Moné or whatever, is in hot water with New Japan Pro Wrestling.
That's called the Shocker!
So while Sasha was in Japan, she has been posting pictures with wrestlers from other wrestling companies, more so than she posts about stuff in New Japan. Apparently, in Japanese culture and wrestling, and I understand this because they definitely take it a lot stricter than we do, that's a no-no. If you are working for one Japanese promotion, you only share pictures of the promotion that you're working with, because they really take kayfabe seriously over there. What are your thoughts on this?
It may just be a cultural misunderstanding here, but if Sasha wants to do what she wants to do, and to hell with whatever rules or guidelines people have within their company. If she wants to do it and you're standing in her way, exactly. I think more than anything, I think she's doing it on purpose to try to push the envelope and to try to change things. And it's like, you're going to find yourself unemployed again.
Right. My big thing is she made a big deal about when she left WWE that she wanted to go on this tour and that she put so much time and effort into what she was doing. Don't you think one of the things you're going to look into is like guidelines and rules you have to follow, whether they are like in stone rules or just like gentleman's agreement rules type of thing? You should know stuff like that. That's where my biggest issue is. That, and I'm really not surprised that she's already ruffling some feathers as it is. Also, since we're on the conversation of Mercedes Moné, what about that giant flop that was AEW Dynamite on Wednesday? They have been teasing Mercedes Moné being Soraya's tag team partner for this match against Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. Was that tonight? Oh, that is tonight. Oh, no. Oh, it has been already announced. They've already announced that Toni Storm is going to be Soraya's tag team partner, even though they have been flirting with, like, Britt Baker mentioning the boss and all that stuff, and they've been teasing the shit out of it. And just to have Sasha Banks not be there. Is this just people trying to read into something that wasn't there, or do you think that...
No. They were specifically trying to stoke the fire here. And what in the television industry, we have a term for something like this: anticipation. You create this buzz, this groundswell of things, and people want a certain thing to happen or are expecting a certain thing to happen, and then you go and do something like this and fuck it up.
It's like a meteorologist telling you to expect 18 to 24 inches of snow, and you wake up the next day and you got a dusting.
Right.
That is the best way that I can compare it, and I think that...
And this is nothing against Toni Storm. It's against what AEW was doing to try to stoke you into being interested in what was going on for January 11th.
I have a feeling they tried and they negotiated and it fell flat and it just didn't happen, and they had to call an audible too quick to the date, and they were like, well, what the fuck are we going to do? My favorite was there's a video online that everybody thought, because like they kind of did like this lights out thing and everybody was freaking out, and then it was just an AEW ad. And everybody's like, oh, it just fell flat. And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was tonight.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Whatevs.
Well, I just think it was just funny. That's all. I thought it was funny.
All right. So, moving along. So there are a few people in New Japan that are now or soon to be free agents. A couple of which are rumored to be going to WWE possibly. Now, I don't know if this possible sale could throw a monkey wrench into the plans, but the three names out there that I saw were Jay White, Tama Tonga, and Hukaleo, that could possibly be free agents soon and show up in WWE. Could Jay White, I want to say Jay White's contract's already over. Can we see a guy like Jay White show up in the Royal Rumble? Basically, I mean, there's going to be, they're in the stadium, there's going to be international fans who know who the hell he is. There's going to be effing marks out there that know who he is.
I will say this. If he wants to play the field a little bit and kind of like dip his toe in the WWE water, I think the Royal Rumble is like, even if it's just as a surprise appearance, would be a good move. From what I've heard with him is that they're going to do everything in their power to make sure he doesn't go to AEW. Because that's what Triple H sees in him. And just like Chris Brown even said, Tonga, WWE is very interested in. They tried signing Tama Tonga when they signed AJ Styles 7 years ago. AJ decided to take the deal, and Tonga re-signed.
Right.
Now he's a free agent. Hukalawa or Hukuleo and Tama Tonga. Do you know who their father is?
I don't.
I'll give you a hint. He may be the only person on planet Earth that could take Chuck Norris in a fight.
Haku.
The baddest man still on planet Earth, Mang. And I I know years ago, Roman Reigns and Tama Tonga were going at it on social media, kind of going back and forth.
Right.
I think Jay White is 100%. Jay White is another one I've done a complete 180 on, because when I first started watching him in New Japan, I was like, I don't fucking see it. And then he went and he got freaking Okada put him over. I'm like, well, they must see something in him. And now that I've seen him, and the more I watch him, that I'm on board. This guy's it. He's a main eventer. That's your guy. You can build around him.
Yeah.
I like to see all of them, especially
the Tongas versus the Usos.
I want to see that, just because Jay White in WWE would be the ultimate middle finger to Kenny Omega and the dipshit, the Hardley Boys.
The Hardleys.
That I want that more than anything else. Just the big fuck you to them.
Okay.
But honestly, Jay White being in WWE would be a smart move, because he's somebody you could build around. The same thing with Tama Tonga and Hukalawa. I think all three would make good additions to WWE. And other people who are free agents, two more names, Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, FTR.
So right now they're not free agents. One thing that their contracts go for another 3 months apparently. And they requested of Tony Khan to be able to go home for the next 3 months to be able to heal up and assess where they want to go to for their next move, for the way they sound like their last move or their last contract for their career. And Tony Khan has granted them that. So, I mean, Tony Khan clearly still wants to sign them, because if he wanted to be an asshole and say, no, you're sticking around here until I tell you to go. But Tony allowing them to have that space to kind of get their bodies right, get their minds right before they make, the decision on their life and their career.
I think it's a good move, and I'll tell you right now, they're probably going to give Tony Khan the first crack at it. But I know that it's going to have a lot to do with what happens with the Hardley Boys. They're the ones that are going to be in the way of what happens with FTR in the future with AEW, if they're going to get the tag team titles now.
Right.
I would take a long look at it, because you know that the grass is very much greener on the other side if Triple H has FTR, because Triple H loves FTR. And Triple H knows that he can get a lot of mileage out of a returning FTR and a reunited DIY. I mean, that's WrestleMania for the next 20 years if they really wanted to.
Well, one part of that equation, one Johnny Gargano is dealing with a shoulder injury. He said that the WWE doctors are probably doing their best to keep him healthy. If it was up to him, he would actually be in the ring right now and still competing, but he wants to be 100% by the time the Royal Rumble comes around in a couple weeks.
There you go. You got honestly, it's the Royal Rumble season, and you got to save yourself for that time. I mean, look, we don't even have AJ Styles for WrestleMania. I don't know if he's even going to be there, because we don't know the severity of the ankle injury.
I mean, we know he broke his ankle. He said it was going to be months.
Right. So I don't blame him for resting. I don't blame anybody for resting. The Giants rested everybody last week, almost beat Philadelphia.
Right.
So, I mean, rest is not a bad thing, especially if you have nagging injuries.
Chris Brown, the difference between Regal and FTR is Regal had a contract that had an
At least 2 years left.
extension that Tony Khan could have exercised if he felt like it. So Tony Khan had all the leverage in the world in that situation and could have said, no, you need to stay here. I like what you're doing here. Let's keep this going. Whereas with FTR, their contracts are up.
Right.
You know, when your contract's up, there's not no compete where you can't go to the other company. When your contract's done, you're free.
Go. And I'll say this with Regal, at least we now know what his position is too. Right. And I really do think that part of the reason he went back to WWE is I don't think he wanted to be on TV as much.
And if the Khans buy WWE, and at the Super Bowl they announced that they bought WWE and Triple H comes out with that belt, I hope that they allow Regal back on television. And he'll have the Blackpool Combat Club, and we'll have – now, what do they do? Can we end up getting a Dean Ambrose versus Jon Moxley match?
We would get Jon Moxley versus Roman Reigns, though, which would be really interesting. And honestly, honest to goodness, I want the first rivalry Chris Jericho has back be with Sami Zayn.
Okay.
That's either that.
I can see that.
Or he picks right back up with Kevin Owens just like when he left.
So, as far as Jericho goes, Jericho and the Jericho Appreciation Society ended up at PWG. Remember when AEW was first starting out and their big performers would just randomly end up at some, like, whether it was a independent show or one of the larger independents, or that they had the agreement with Impact Wrestling. They've showed up everywhere, and they got away from that for a bit, but this was kind of like almost going back to holy shit, like this is something that like we weren't expecting. Like, I'm sure nobody at PWG was expecting to see Jericho and Jericho Appreciation Society show up. So I'm glad that they did this.
I think it's because Daniel Garcia has one of the championships for PWG, if I'm not mistaken. I just find, and honestly, kudos to Chris Jericho, because why the fuck not? The whole thing, great. You're supporting your counterpart. Fantastic. It made me see Sammy Guevara and Tay Conte, and that was the last thing I really wanted to see. I can't stand those two fucking people. And I also find it interesting, my second point to this, I also find it interesting that years ago, Chris Jericho said he wouldn't sign with Impact because it's beneath him. So Chris Jericho shows up at PWG. So in Chris Jericho's mind, PWG is bigger than Impact.
Jericho specifically stated he thought PWG was the modern era of ECW, with fans that were just as passionate, that loved exactly what they were watching and what they were doing. And that's why he wanted to go there.
And honestly, a lot of the guys came from Pro Wrestling Guerrilla to WWE. I know Johnny Gargano got his, wrestled there. I know there's a bunch of them, but I know Gargano off the top of my head is the first one that comes to mind. I'd have to really look, but. And again, kudos to Chris Jericho for showing up, and I think he even wrestled that night too.
It was a 10-man tag match, and apparently the most entertaining part, Jericho was in the match, and I forgot who he was in the ring against, but apparently, Jericho in his early 50s is putting on some of the best matches out there still.
Have we talked about the next edition of the Cruise of Jericho yet?
No.
We have not. I think it's like the fourth voyage of the
Rock and Rager.
The Rock and Rager. Do you know what the main event of the Rock and Rager is going to be? Because they've already announced it.
I have not. I have not seen that.
Well, of course, I'm mentioning Chris Jericho, so somehow he's in this.
It will be. Got to be. It's his cruise.
For the first time ever, we are getting the tag team of Chris Jericho and Danhausen. If you had to guess who their opponents are on the Rock and Chris Jericho Cruise of Jericho, sail away, man! Who do you think that Danhausen and Jerichohausen are going up against? If you had to guess.
Orange Cassidy and John Moxley.
Unfortunately, Jay, I have two words for you, and they're not
Socko.
Ass boys. It is going to be Jericho and Danhausen versus the Gun Club, as Chris Brown had said. Yes, I just love the fact that it's Danhausen and Jericho versus the Ass Boys, and you know it's going to be the Ass Boys on the cruise. There's nothing they could do about it.
Right.
Speaking of tag teams, last week on SmackDown, we got a qualifying match between Hit Row's, Top Dollar, I'm sorry, going up against Ricochet. And I'm glad that they're doing the qualifying matches back to get into the Royal Rumble. That was always that, and getting into the King of the Ring, I thought were so grossly underrated. But in the process, Ricochet did win the match, leading to Top Dollar and the rest of Hit Row turning on Ricochet. Now, I know that they had previously teased that they were going to turn Hit Row because everybody was clowning them backstage because of his flop. And thankfully, at the end of the day,
right.
I'm glad AJ Francis got away with that pretty much unscathed, and it was a learnable lesson. But do you think it's too soon to be turning Hit Row at this point?
You know, I think they're just going to see what they can do with what they have as a heel tandem, and I think it's going to be a good opportunity to expand their characters beyond just being entertainers. So I think long term this is a good thing. Maybe it was a little soon, but I don't think it was like, you put the frozen chicken in the defroster, for like 30 seconds, like Vince likes to do.
Right.
Or sometimes doesn't even put it into defrost. Let's see the Mickie James heel turn from all those years ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh God!
This one feels like they shut the microwave defrost off, 30 seconds early, out of 10 minutes, 30 seconds early.
I think we have the old case of Mr. 4 touchdowns in a single game, Al Bundy. They're just throwing it against the wall and seeing if it sticks. Let's put it in the oven and see if it bakes, as he would say. I'm intrigued by this because they haven't been back long, and yet you've already turned them. I really do think, and nothing against them, because I actually do. I'm a Hit Row fan. I actually like them. I think that B-Fab has potential in the women's division, and again, I love tag team wrestling. And AJ Francis, once upon a time, was a New York Giant, and Asante Adonis, he's good too. I like those guys. I think that they haven't been back long enough, so let's see what happens. Kind of throw it on the wall, see if it sticks. But they lost their, I don't want to say mojo, but I want to say they lost their edge, kind of, when Swerve got
I'll see clearly.
They didn't bring back Swerve, and I'm gonna tell you right now,
they couldn't.
And they couldn't, and that's the problem too, because now we're in a situation where Hit Row is headless, and Swerve,
aka Brainless.
Yes, Brainless, and Swerve is in AEW in a stable with Parker Boudreaux and some guy who I still have no idea what the fuck his name is, but he looks like Chris Anderson, who used to play in the NBA for, I think, the Hornets, the Birdman.
He was on the Heat,
yes,
too.
I remember him on the Heat, yes. He played for a few teams.
Right.
Yeah, and I think they need that identity. That's their problem. They either need to go out there and develop their own identity, maybe not have brought them back as Hit Row, because people are going to think that, right, Swerve was Hit Row. They're not the same Hit Row without Swerve. Or you give them an identity, somebody that could run it. Somebody like Ricochet. I know right now he's a top babyface and he's got his own thing. Or Carmelo Hayes.
I'm just going to pause right there. Congratulations, Ricochet, on your engagement.
Yes.
You know, finding love in the world is a difficult thing. Congratulations on finding that and finding the one that you are going to marry.
Samantha Irwin, who happens to be the voice of SmackDown.
And, you know, hopefully she doesn't beat him up like he got beat up during the Miracle on 34th Street fight.
Yeah. But she did kiss him.
Yeah. But, yeah, I like the idea of, like, somebody like, whether it's Carmelo Hayes or heck, even if they operated as they are now and got, like, MVP to, like, front them.
Be part of the Hurt Business. Kind of like
there are things like that they could do.
Subsidiaries of, like, MVP.
Right.
I think, honestly, Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, because you got to bring Trick up, too. I'm sorry. You can't Electra Lopez Trick Williams to me either. It's got to be Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, and they got to make that the stable. And that's what you do. And I agree. I think that Carmelo Hayes would be a better fit. I really do. He's got it. He's got that Shawn Michaels in him. He's got that charisma. He's got that personality. He carries himself very well, and he's damn good in the ring.
Yeah.
The only problem with Carmelo Hayes is he's short. That's it. But then again, Jonathan Gresham is shorter than I am, and he was number 10 in the PWI's list.
Right.
I think he has a presence about him. He would be the perfect fit for Hit Row if they decided to go that route.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of having MVP as kind of like a consultant type of deal for Hit Row.
Yeah.
I think that would be interesting.
So we got that.
Really quickly, because I kind of got a little sidetracked. William Regal did get a new position. I didn't get a chance to announce it. I had a brainless moment because, not a gimmick. William Regal is now officially the new Executive Vice President of Global Talent Development.
Yeah.
So that's a huge move. That's basically what he was doing before and then some. And from the way people are talking, William Regal has been inserted into being Triple H's right-hand man. He is now he's basically like John Laurinaitis or Jim Ross or whatever you want him to be. And now hold on. My question would be is, if William Regal is Triple H's right-hand man, does that make Shawn Michaels Triple H's left-hand man? And does that also mean that Shawn Michaels has to have his right eye or his left eye on Triple H when Triple H is talking to him if he's on his left?
There's a part in the Bible where the sons of Zebedee who are the disciples of Jesus, their mother asked Jesus, "Hey, in heaven, I would like my sons to be seated next to you." And Jesus says, "You have no idea what you're asking me." And that's kind of what I feel right now. It's so deep. It's so deep.
So my question is,
I can't really explain it. I'm going to say that Shawn Michaels is somewhere in the cosmos, but one of his eyes is definitely on Triple H.
okay, I just want to make sure. And the other one's on, like, the water cooler.
Yes.
My question is now, because you brought that up, the brothers. We have a new thing. Instead of BC and AD, it is going to be BB. Were the brothers before or after Bobby? Before Bobby or after Bobby? Or before Bobby or after Fish?
They're after Fish.
After Fish, right? Okay, I just want to make sure.
They're after Fish. I mean, the only brothers that are before Fish are Cain and Abel.
And that's even questionable because he might be older than Abel.
Certainly survived longer.
But what do you expect,
I wonder
Jay?
when Bobby Fish's next boxing match is going to be.
I hate the fact that every time I see his face, I just immediately start laughing. Because it's a number of things too. It's not even just the fact that Bobby Fish is the only person to beat Abraham Lincoln in a wrestling match, and Bobby Fish was at Plymouth Rock when the Mayflower arrived in 1620, or the fact that he was in a triple threat match with Cain and Abel. It's the fact that there's also that in the pose when he made his Impact debut, and when he came out in Chicago, or I'm sorry, when he came out in his hometown to zero reaction, just like the amount of money that Jeff Jarrett has made in his entire career.
Like $30.
His entire career. $30. I'm just saying.
Because there
time.
was that one sign. There was that one sign. The person that said, "I bought this ticket to watch Jeff Jarrett."
Jay, my goal is now to find out exactly how much money Chris Jericho, Jeff Jarrett has drawn in his career. I really want to know because I really think it's only like $20.
Yeah.
Which is still more money than Paul London ever drew in his life. Speaking of it, real quick, Paul London was on his podcast or a podcast or did some kind of an interview, and they asked him if he would be in the Royal Rumble and said, yeah, if they want me in the Royal Rumble, it'll cost them $1 million. You don't have to stand too close to your phone, Paul London. I don't think Triple H is going to be calling you. But
yeah, if it was like $10, they might. But I mean, I think the reaction to Paul London would be about as good as it was for Grandmaster Sexay.
Oh God! Are you talking about when he made this return when they were humiliating Jerry Lawler during one of the absolute worst storylines that I try not to remember, the Michael Cole Jerry Lawler one that led to Michael Cole beating Jerry Lawler in his only match at WrestleMania?
The coal mine, yeah.
You know, Jay, there really is not enough marijuana on this planet to help me wipe out the memory from all of that. From watching him, because honestly, I really thought it was like a bloated blonde Chandler Bing that was coming to the ring when he came out, and I was like, oh my God, no, that's Jerry Lawler's kid. I was like, oh my God. And I don't say this enough.
Oh God.
He looks like shit. And now I know why I got blocked by Jerry Lawler on Twitter.
Chris Brown, that is a bold statement, my friend. That's a bold statement.
Oh, there's no way. The coal mine had more memorable moments than Kazarni. Kazarni had 2 matches in WWE. The coal mine was ahead of its time, as Jay will say, right here.
Ahead of its time. pre-COVID, Michael Cole was social distancing from people and did have one of my favorite WrestleMania moments that year when the coal mine was destroyed by Undertaker and Triple H.
My favorite thing from all of that, other than the fact that Michael Cole got nuclear heat for about a good year, is when Edge snapped on the laptop. I know I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but it really is top 10 favorite moments in WWE history for me. It's just the look on his face, because I understand. Because I would have the same look on my face if I was about to smash the kid's laptop. I wouldn't do it, but
Right.
But it was great. Sorry. And Kazarni, come on. He beat MVP and then lost. Like, he was the third person eliminated in a battle royal that I think Kane won to win, to win a shot at the ECW championship or something.
Was that when he won the shot at, or he ended up winning the ECW title, right? And then defending it at that WrestleMania?
Yeah, there was a battle royal in the pre-show that I got to see if they have it on there. And Kane won it. And then Kane fought Chavo Guerrero. And Chavo came out first, and Kane's music hit. Kane snuck up behind and attacked Chavo, hit him with like a choke slam and pinned him, and became ECW
Right.
champion.
That's right. He officially beat King Kong Bundy's record.
No, did he really? That was the match?
That's the way they set it up. They said it was an 8-second match, although The Rock went and beat that with his 6-second match against Captain Wedgie at WrestleMania 32.
Yeah, I remember that. And that one doesn't really get enough love. I love Kane beating Chavo for the ECW title at WrestleMania. And it was another one of those memories. That, Sheamus, King Kong Bundy, Earthquake against Atom Bomb and shit. I mean, there was a lot of them. Yeah.
You mentioned Paul London, and one thing we did not bring up on last week's show, because there was all sorts of other stuff to talk about last week, is Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is going to be in London, and it's going to be at the O2 Arena. There are a couple of things about this that are interesting. We had the posts out there and the belief out there that the gimmick pay-per-views were done. Clearly not. The fact that they're doing this in England is interesting. The fact that they're not doing it in a stadium, I find even more interesting, when they just sold out, a stadium for a Clash at the Castle. But apparently they want to do the O2 Arena because, one, it's England. Two, they're like, we're guaranteed a sellout and this crowd is going to be on fire. But, like Tim's saying, I wish Money in the Bank went back to WrestleMania and wasn't a pay-per-view, but apparently the gimmick is over enough where Nick Khan was able to convince Triple H, and that's what I believe happened here. Nick Khan convinced Triple H, no, this gimmick is enough for a show. Yep. And quite honestly, it's a show that I love the Survivor Series. I love the fact that they brought War Games into it this year. Mm-hmm. Money in the Bank is probably a bigger show at this point than Survivor Series.
Agreed, 1,000%. It is the big four. It was the big five for a while, but I really do think that Money in the Bank has leapfrogged Survivor Series. Well, you know what? Maybe if the Khans do buy WWE, Chris Jericho can finally win the match that he helped create.
Yeah, he should.
Just saying. But I want to say, yep. Chris Brown said that Walter's going to win it. It's got to be Gunther. Gunther.
I would love it.
And whatever they do, I'm convinced Rhea Ripley's going to be one of the champions. But I would say she would be a good one to pick for that. Yeah. So it'll probably be Charlotte.
Right. Tim, that's not a bad idea. WrestleMania 2 nights, put one ladder on each night. That's not bad. Speaking of WrestleMania, WrestleMania has already broken the record for the highest gate in history. They haven't announced a single damn match, and they've already broken the record. Now, they've sold in excess of 100,000 tickets for the 2 nights. They surpassed WrestleMania 32 for gate, and we still have another 3.5 months before it happens. What are your thoughts on that?
3 months. We're just under 3 months, actually, because it is the first week of April. I think that's wonderful. That's great. And, wasn't there talk, like, didn't AEW sell out a show without announcing it? And it was like, oh, they made $1 million. They just made a record gate without a single match being announced. We do we even know Roman Reigns is going to be champion? We really don't. A lot of things can happen between now and WrestleMania. It's on the belief, because I bet you a lot of it, had to do with the thought that The Rock was going to be in Hollywood for WrestleMania. And even if he doesn't wrestle, I think he's going to be there. Even if they do the same thing at WrestleMania 39 they did at WrestleMania 30, where they go out there, have Hulk Hogan make an ass out of himself, and then The Rock and Steve Austin can, go and save everything, which apparently Hulk Hogan didn't even know that was going to happen. But I believe Hulk Hogan's on that just as much as I believe he wrestled 400 days in a year.
He did that, and Andre the Giant was 737 pounds the day they wrestled at WrestleMania 3. He died a few days later, and
he was taking a shit when they were making the call for him to have the Foreman grill too. Don't forget that.
Yep. He just missed out on that.
Was he supposed to be the drummer or the bass player for Metallica?
He was going to be the bass player for Metallica.
Was it? Hold on. Wait, one more. I got to ask one more. True or false? Even though Elvis Presley was already dead when Hulk Hogan debuted in professional wrestling, every time Hulk Hogan wrestled in Nashville, Elvis Presley was there.
Memphis.
Oh, Memphis. I'm sorry.
Memphis.
Every time he wrestled in Memphis, he was there.
That's what I hear. Whether or not it's true, I mean, that remains to be seen. I'll ask the big man upstairs. When I pass away, like, were all these things Hulk Hogan said true? Because, I mean, he made quite the case.
I wrestled 400 days in a year, brother. I bounced back and forth from the U.S. and Japan so much that I time traveled. No, Hulk Hogan, that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works, brother.
I mean, Superman in the original Superman movie, I mean, flew so fast that he made the Earth turn the other way, and he saved Lois Lane. Hulk Hogan could have done that.
Jay, as far as I'm concerned, in my, again, 35 years of watching this shit, Hulk Hogan can do anything. Because you know why? Because he takes his brothers and says his prayers with the 24-inch python, because it's Hulk Hogan. That's why.
So if Disney bought WWE, even if they said Vince couldn't have anything to do with it, who would be a bigger heel, Darth Vader or Vince McMahon? Or the Emperor?
I don't know. Maybe we should ask Kevin. We should ask Kevin what his theory, his thoughts are on Emperor Palpatine and his daughter
Rey.
Yeah. I honest to goodness, Jay, I'm sorry. Darth Vader might have killed people, but at least it ended right there. Vince McMahon murdered somebody and let the show go on. So, in all of my years, and it's close. I mean, it's between those two and like Thanos. They're three of the most despicable human beings in the history of everything.
What if we finally get that legendary match you wanted to see in Ragnarok? We get Thor versus John Cena.
Jay, I want you to tell the people how incredibly disappointed the Brainless One was when you and I sat in the theater for over 2 hours watching Thor and the Incredible Hulk and whatever ungodly beasts that they had in that movie. I don't even know what the hell you want to call it, because it wasn't a comedy and it was a terrible superhero movie. But just tell people how disappointed I was when John Cena did not come out in that movie.
Well, honestly, I think that was like the for you, the whole downfall of the movie was that we didn't see John Cena versus Thor, even though there was the slight rumor that that might actually happen.
He was an IMDb. He was uncredited cast in IMDb. Oh fuck, Jay! I didn't realize it. He was there the whole time. We just didn't see him. No, honestly, that was probably top 5 most disappointed I ever was in something that happened in the movie. Top 5, no question. Very, very
sad.
Very disappointed. It was a sad, very, very sad day for the Brainless One.
Tim, I mean, I think that could be the card. That could be the card. I wouldn't mind seeing the two behemoths, Lashley and Strowman, against each other. So
Sami Zayn versus the Usos, Charlotte versus Bianca versus Ripley. I don't want to see Cena versus Jake Paul. Strowman and Lashley would be fun, though. I'll say that. Ricochet versus Theory. By the way,
I got a theory.
With everything that's coming out right now with Vince McMahon, and there's talk that he might be in charge of creative, that match is going to be a decisive fact about whether or not Vince McMahon has any control of creative. Because if Gunther drops the belt to Strowman tonight, all hell's going to break loose. I don't see how you can have... Because we all know how Vince felt. It came out. When I found out that Vince wasn't sold on Gunther and was going to send him back to NXT, that's when I knew... I mean, yes, there was other things, but that was it. That was the tipping point for me. Because you don't get handed the golden goose of heels. A guy who has the look. He's got the charisma. He's got everything. He's a damn good wrestler. Hell, they asked him what he thought about the sale. And he says, I'm not the CEO. I'm just a wrestler. Fucking throw the goddamn every rocket on his back and shoot him past Moon. Past Mars, send his ass to Jupiter. That's your guy. You can build with Gunther for the next decade. And the only other person in my mind who couldn't find something good to do with Gunther other than Vince McMahon is Vince Russo. That's it. They're the only 2 people on planet Earth that I am convinced 1,000% would fuck up Gunther.
F and Mark's Hall of Famer El Jefe and I had lunch this afternoon, and we saw what could possibly have been Gunther's son in Ghent.
Wow.
Yeah, had the haircut, had the build. Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, Jay. I was talking to Nicole about this before the podcast, and we were talking about Gunther and everything. The only person in WWE I like more than Gunther is Sheamus. That's it. That's how much Gunther has grown on. I mean, yes, Walter, Gunther, whatever. That's how much he has grown on me. I'm vested. That's your guy. You can't fuck this up, Triple H. Vince McMahon can. You can't fuck this up, Triple H. That's your guy. Give him the Intercontinental title. Let him keep being the Intercontinental Champion. Let him drop it at Elimination Chamber where he can still lose and still look strong, and drop it that way. If Braun Strowman wins the belt tonight, all hell is going to break loose.
Yeah?
Yeah?
All right.
On a brighter note, though, we actually got a surprise return on Wednesday on Dynamite.
Who was it, Brainless One?
None other than
Adam Cole, baby!
That was beautiful. Thank you. I was so happy to see him. I know that he's been dealing with the concussion and everything. Boy, am I glad to see him. And I love the fact that there was not even a sniff of him returning. That's how you do it. How they did it with Adam Cole, that's how you do it. And he cut a great promo. I'm glad he's back.
I'm happy to hear he's back, hearing his story of what he went through, and I'm sure that's only part of it. And when you're used to doing certain things and you can't do them, like talking about how difficult it was riding in a car, how it would make him nauseous,
yep.
And light was a problem, and dizziness, and just everyday things, and having to go to a doctor, sounds like a couple times a week to get yourself right. And he talked about how he was also dealing with a shoulder injury, and his shoulder was more or less shredded. So he has been able to heal up. They did not say anything about him being medically cleared at this point, but they wouldn't put him on TV if it wasn't close.
Right. I'm guessing, don't they have a pay-per-view coming up in February? Isn't MJF is leading up for him, and then whatever the next pay-per-view is, Fight for the Fallen, Fall for the Fighting for something, whatever it is, whatever the hell.
Right.
In full gear, full loaded, full whatever. I know they're building up for that. Maybe they're building him up for that. Maybe we see Cole for that. Or does he come back? I mean, it's possible he comes back sooner, but they could be planting the seed for him to come back in time for the pay-per-view.
They certainly can. And, the thing with this, they had been building a thing with the Elite back a little ways ago. But back then, he had the oldest man still alive in the world, in Bobby Fish, on his team. And he had Kyle O'Reilly, who had neck fusion surgery. There was a bit of an update with him saying that he has been dealing with some post-surgery issues. But when he does come back, he says he's going to be stronger than ever, better than ever. But when you're dealing with neck fusion, I mean, the general idea is like 9 months. He's been away for, I think, a little more than 6. And if he's had, post-surgery issues, that means he's still a little way off before he comes back. And 9 months is kind of the minimum. So
you're talking with the neck, too.
Yeah.
You don't fuck with the neck. You don't fuck with the neck, and you don't fuck with the head.
Right.
So I'm hoping that he's back, and I miss seeing Kyle O'Reilly out there. It's just a shame that we're not going to get the band reunited because the Ageless Wonder will not be there, or Roderick Strong, whose wife is telling everybody that nobody knows her.
Right.
Another thing from Wednesday I wanted to talk about was everything that had to do with MJF. Now, I'm going to apologize now because I already know I'm going to absolutely obliterate this, even though I'm a huge fan. But I apologize. Tanosuke Takashita or Takashita, something to that extent, is scheduled to face Bryan Danielson. See, I still call Bryan Danielson versus Takashita was set for Wednesday. MJF came out after Takashita made his entrance to the ring. MJF went in there, had a little confrontation with him, said some stuff. He said, "Is your name Takashita?" And he was clowning him. And then he was like, what do you got to say for yourself? And he took the microphone and he Oscar'd himself where he screamed a whole bunch of Japanese. And MJF was like, whoa, we speak English around here. And he goes, kiss my ass. And then,
nice.
They had the nice back and forth. And I'm glad that they're doing something with him. I think he's got potential. He's young, and he's going to get a lot of exposure. I'm calling it right now. He's my breakout star at the end of this year. I don't know if he's going to be I don't know if he'll be AEW champion, but I could see him winning at least the All-Atlantic or the TNT championship at some point. He's got a lot of potential. He's got a good look to him, too. And he loves Cinnabon, so how can you not like him?
Right.
But anyway, so after that happened, Bryan Danielson came out and he charged to the ring, and MJF ran like high hell, like the chicken shit heel that MJF can also be.
And I ran so far away.
Oh yes, but I love that they're doing something with him. Him and Bryan Danielson had a great match on Wednesday. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And then on top of it with MJF, just because I'm on the wagon with him, he posted his awards that he received from, I think, Pro Wrestling Illustrated or one of those wrestling newsletter things that does awards almost as good as we do.
Right.
But him and CM Punk had won Rivalry of the Year. And he posed with the plaque, and he said, I had to tape CM Punk's name out and put my name in there because that's what I got to do. And CM Punk responded and said, why don't you use tape to hide the ratings on Dynamite?
I don't know. It's feeling like more and more like we might see CM Punk back.
I
think I'm putting it at 50-50. I'm not saying it's happening super soon, but I'm going to put it at like 50-50. He ends up back at AEW at some point in the next year.
He could do, I don't know what the hell he's going to be able to do, but he knows
like
that money,
it might have died down enough where some of the people who have agreed or who have said they won't ever work with him may have calmed down from that position.
CM Punk knows at the end of the day there is a fuck ton of money to make, and in the process of doing this, if he wants to talk to somebody, he can explain to Jeff Jarrett what it's like to actually draw a dime in your fucking career, because CM Punk can do it. The highest gates were because of him with AEW. He knows that there's a lot of money to be made with this, especially if they can re-sign FTR. Because right there, you got FTR and CM Punk, and you can put them up against the Elite. The problem is that Twinkle Toes and the Hardly Boys are going to have to swallow their egos, swallow their pride, and believe me, they know a lot, and they know how to swallow. That's for damn sure. And I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Kenny and the Bucks are going to allow this to happen because their egos are way too big for this. They're in.
Well, I mean, Kenny just had another like 25-star match.
Oh yeah, great. Him and Will. Hey, I like Will Ospreay. So Will Ospreay had the second greatest match of all. I have to watch it. I need to watch that match. But another thing we got on Wednesday was the fucking assholes winning back their trios titles. Not surprising to the Brainless One. And I am once again back on my AEW ban, unless Danhausen is on. Oh, speaking of which, so they had Orange Cassidy doing an interview, and he is asked about his relation, and he's with Danhausen, because obviously you have to have Danhausen because it's Danhausen and he's wonderful. So they was asked about his relationship with Trent Beretta, because not too long ago on Rampage, they fought for the All-Atlantic Championship. And he was like, and they asked him, and Orange Cassidy was like, yeah, we're cool. And then the best friends, Chuck and Trent, both showed up and like, yeah, we're cool and everything. And they kind of teased with Orange Cassidy the way he looked at Trent, and the way Trent looked, and the way Chucky T looked. And I was, no, don't do this to me. Do not do to me. I know that they have 805 other stables in AEW that I can replace.
One including QT Marshall.
Yes, including one that has QT Marshall in it. But I don't want to pick. You already ruined the Dark Order for me. Don't ruin the Best Friends for me. Why? They need Chris Statlander back in the worst way. Everything has gone downhill since she tore her ACL. Oh! Actually, it all went downhill after Orange Cassidy beat the Keebler Elf. This is all Kevin Owens' fault. If Captain Cupcake had, number one, not been a piece of shit, but if he had signed with AEW, we could have had the Hostess Heroes by now, which means that the Keebler Elf would not have lost the All-Atlantic Championship or have even had it in the time, and Orange Cassidy would not have been the All-Atlantic Champion, which means my favorite stable would still be together. Don't do this to me. Don't rip my heart out and hand it to me and squeeze it. No.
Freshly squeezed.
I can't. I don't know. I mean, yes, I know I'll still have Orange Cassidy and Danhausen together, but I can't. No. They've already, like I said, they've already ruined the Dark Order for me. They can't ruin the Best Friends too.
They're going to.
I know they are. I was this close to tweeting at Trent Beretta, please don't. That's all I was going to say was, please don't.
You should. Anyway.
I might still, yes. I am hurt.
A couple other things AEW-wise. Tully Blanchard is officially done with the organization, and he kind of said cryptically, yes, my contract ran out, but it's a little more complex than that. But yes, I am done.
Interesting.
So, it's when they started AEW, clearly they wanted to get some of the people with nostalgia for NWA, specifically NWA, by bringing veterans like Blanchard back, by bringing people like DDP in, or Jake Roberts, or what have you. So, maybe they feel like they got all the use they could out of Tully in what he could do for the company, and he doesn't sound too upset or too bitter. I mean, quite honestly, he stayed away from the wrestling industry for the most part for about 30 years. So he'll just go back to what life was like before.
I like to see Billy Corgan at least put in a call. Can't hurt.
Right.
Tully Blanchard's name does bring a lot of recognition to the NWA.
To the older fans. Yeah. And, I mean, Corrigan does, at the end of this month, it's going to be their first ever live NWA Power on January 31st at 6:05, and it's not on the Superstation, it's on YouTube, which I guess is the new version of the Superstation. Superstation. Yes. And they should have Tony Schimmel say that.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of Tully Blanchard, it came out this week just when you thought that shit couldn't get any worse for somebody. It comes out that Tessa Blanchard cheated on her husband. I mean, is that a fall from grace? Is that a fall from grace? She went from being the Impact World Champion to nobody wants to touch her. Cheating on her husband. Except for
the person she cheated with.
Except for the person she cheated with. I can't. I've never seen anybody. Well, I have. It's not very often you see somebody in wrestling who keeps getting in their way more than Tessa Blanchard has in the last few years.
Right.
I'm amazed.
The only person who's gotten in their own way more often is maybe Marty Jannetty.
Sable. Or not Sable, Sammy Sitch.
By the way, 31 years ago, in a famous episode of The Barber Shop, one Shawn Michaels turned on Marty Jannetty, and Marty Jannetty was trying to run away and ended up running through the barbershop window. It was not him getting thrown through. because I'm going based off the broadcast journalist Bobby Heenan's perspective of what happened. Jannetty was trying to run away and ran through the glass.
And that is a professional journalist in Bobby Heenan. He would know. I just want you to know that because you brought that to my attention and reminded me that today was the anniversary of that, and I'm sorry I didn't post anything. That's on me. I dropped the ball. But I have now officially changed my good for this week.
He did run through the glass, Tim. Ran through the glass.
Ran through the glass. Because why would Shawn Michaels throw Marty Jannetty through the glass? It made no sense. He already kicked him.
He wasn't looking that way.
He was looking at Brutus Beefcake. Oh, could you imagine? I just thought of this. Could you imagine they didn't tell Brutus Beefcake that was going to happen? Like, all they told him was, yeah, Shawn's going to super kick Marty Jannetty, and that's it. And then Shawn throws Marty through the pane glass, and like Beefcake's like, what the fuck just happened? Or do you think that really sells it, the fact that Marty Jannetty did run through the pane glass window? Yeah?
Yeah?
Oh, that's such good shit, though. That was such a marquee moment. I mean, other than Hogan slamming the Giant and Hogan leg dropping Randy Savage, that's there. That's the third biggest moment in wrestling history in my mind. Yes. Breaking news.
You may be right.
Breaking news. Gunther retains the Intercontinental Championship against Braun Strowman, so I can sleep just a little bit better tonight. Let's watch it. See, look. Shawn took his hand off of him, and Marty ran. That was at least, I mean, that's his. And that was like freaking James Harden traveling. He definitely took like 4 or 5 steps after Shawn Michaels stopped touching him. Of course, he was busted wide open. He went through a glass window. Bobby Heenan was ahead of his time. Bobby Heenan, in my opinion, is the greatest character that professional wrestling has ever produced. He was the greatest manager, and in my opinion, he was the greatest color analyst in wrestling history. He had a way of talking to people. I have a great appreciation for Bobby Heenan. I named myself on this podcast basically after Bobby the Brain Heenan. I cannot sit, and I can sit here for hours and talk glowingly about Bobby Heenan. But I'm not going to do that.
Yeah?
Do you have any other news and notes for this week?
I mean, the gender returned on NXT. I don't think we're going to get a Punjabi prison match on NXT.
You don't know that. He's there. And eventually... Hey, wait. Isn't this because of the whole Indian show that they're doing for NXT? Or this whole Indian show they're going to be doing?
No, originally the Indian show was supposed to happen like next week. And it's not happening at the moment. So... I guess that's a wait and see at this moment. You never know, I guess, in the future if Jinder ends up becoming like NXT champion and they end up having a takeover during WrestleMania weekend next year when they're in Philadelphia. It could be at whatever the name of the current arena is in Philadelphia, and they could have a takeover with the Punjabi prison match.
They absolutely 1,000% can. They could definitely do the Jinder versus Braun Breaker if they really wanted to. Hell, make it a 6-man and put him with the with Veer and the other Veer, and he can have the Creed brothers with him.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then at some point, obviously at some point during the match, the Great Khali will lumber his way down to the ring as fast as he can, all half a mile an hour.
I just thought of another Disney match that we could do. Disney WWE match. Dave Bautista versus Drax the Destroyer.
This is just like Hulk Hogan's not Mr. America, Jay. Even though, what was it, 25-inch pythons for Mr. America?
24-inch pythons. Are you Hulk Hogan? No, brother.
I swear to God, Hulk Hogan could do anything, and I'd watch it and think it's entertaining.
His screw-ups are the best.
Oh, yes. I want to sit there. I would pay money to sit there for an hour and have him tell me every single lie that he has ever told, and I would believe every single one of them because I am a Hulkamaniac. True and true, brother. But, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm really looking forward to Paul Burchill versus Captain Jack Sparrow.
Jay, I just want to see
an eye for an eye match.
I want to see John Cena versus Darth Vader because I am still 100% convinced that John Cena would beat Darth Vader. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You don't beat Super Cena.
Iron Man versus Brock Lesnar.
The Hulk versus Brock Lesnar. It would look like the Hulk versus Brock Lesnar would start off just like Eddie Kingston and Ishii, where they just chop each other for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Such good shit.
Yeah. I think that's all I got for notes.
I think that's everything. One more thing. I just remembered, I'm brainless. On Raw, they had a tag team turmoil to determine the number one contenders for not the Unified Tag Team Championships, just the Raw Tag Team Championships. And the winning team that will be going up against the Usos next week on Raw for the Tag Team Championships will be none other than Spooky Pals.
Spooky Pals. Yeah, I don't think they're doing this as a tactic to make you think like, oh, maybe they will take off half the tag team championships from them. Maybe. But I don't think so.
I don't either. I honestly don't even know what to think anymore. There's so much shit going on that I don't know if they're going to split the titles or split the other titles or if they're going to combine other titles or whatever. I just wanted to be the Royal Rumble.
Who in Disney versus WWE would The Undertaker go against? Would it be Loki because of how many times he comes back from the dead?
That's a really good question. I'm really going to have to think about that.
Who do you have Stone Cold Steve Austin go against? Like, there's got to be a beer drinker somewhere in the Disney universe.
Yeah, it's Gaston. Because I remember the scene where he sings, "No one fights like Gaston. No one's right like Gaston. And if I could punch anyone, it'd be that guy like Gaston."
All right, who wins between 1987 Hulk Hogan and Captain America?
I think the better question is who wins in a match between Hulk Hogan and Thunderlips?
Or Hulk Hogan and the Hulk?
Or Hulk Hogan and
Stairs.
Hulk Hogan versus Rip. Rip 'em.
Yeah.
What about Stan Hansen?
Oh.
There's no way This is like, no, go away, Stan. We can't have you here. We can't have you chasing. We can't have you chasing Missy Hyatt in a towel, okay?
That was one of my favorite gimmicks back in like the early '90s in WCW.
Yes.
See, Tim, 87 Hogan beats everybody.
Well, that goes without saying. Wait. Was 87 Hogan wasn't the Hogan that beat the Sheik, though, right? 87 Hogan was beat Andre, right?
What was that?
87 was when he beat Andre, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I want clarification. That's all.
Yeah.
Hogan must pose. He's got to do the whole shtick. He's got to do like copious amounts of coke before he comes out to the ring too, and copious amounts of steroids. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is the perfect way to segue into the good and the bad and the brainless for this week. Jay, what do you got for your good this week?
Adam Cole, baby! For me, there was nothing else it could be. Glad to see him back on television. He's been away for such a long time. And when you saw him and how he went down in that last match at Forbidden Door, you're like, oh, shit.
Yep.
And you don't want to see an ending like that for anybody's career. And I'm glad to see him, glad to see we are going to get more Adam Cole, baby.
Me too. And honestly, I was joking. I'm really not going to put the 31-year anniversary of Shawn Michaels tapping Marty Jannetty and watching him run through the glass window. Now, MJF gets my good for this week, Jay.
Okay.
Honest to goodness, him with Takeshita was good. The fact that he played every part of the heel perfectly. Even to a point where a girl was talking about how she was waiting for her Uber after the show on Wednesday, and MJF walked by and asked how old she was. And she goes, what'd you say? And he goes, how old are you? She goes, are you talking to me? He goes, oh, you missed your shot. You missed your opportunity. And he walked away. And then he responded to her, and he goes, you had one chance, one opportunity, all that stuff. And then there's a comment underneath. I just checked this chick's profile, and she definitely wasn't the one I was asking. Oh, my God. I know that I give him a hard time about the whole WWE contract and everything like that, but that man he's Roddy Piper good. He really is. He's in Piper territory on the microphone, Jay.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. But
hey, you know what? Like, the week before, I was not a big fan of his segment, him and Bryan Danielson, because they were doing mom jokes to each other. That was not such good shit.
I enjoyed what he did on Wednesday. Everything from doing the face-to-face, giving Takeshita his chance, running away like the chicken shit heel, like he is, with Bryan Danielson, and then he freaking just absolutely obliterated the girl on Twitter too. So he gets my good. And I knew you were going to go with Adam Cole, baby. So that's why I went with MJF.
Yeah.
What do you got for your bad?
I'm going to go with pro wrestling journalists. I'm going to use that term very loosely because there was an awful lot of stuff pumping out that, like, WWE was sold to Saudi Arabia. I was buying into it because I was seeing it everywhere. I'm still of the belief that might – I think it's going to be the one that happens because they have more money than everybody else. But pro wrestling journalists coming out there and saying this definitively and then, like, nothing.
Fuck Dave Meltzer. Yeah, I put dirt sheets. You can't just come out here and you say, hey, WWE is signed, is locked in. And honestly, the way that the chips fell too. Stephanie resigns, and not even 12 hours later, there's rumors that WWE was sold to Saudi Arabia, a done deal. My whole thing was, and I was skeptical that it was actually a done deal, because it was only the dirt sheets that were announcing it. Because ESPN, the last thing ESPN had posted was Stephanie McMahon had resigned.
Right.
I'm telling you right now, NBC, CNBC, CNN, every network's picking up the Saudi Arabia signed or bought WWE. That's why I was a little skeptical. So shame on those dirt sheet guys like Sean Sapp for getting everybody all in a tiff over this. I know there was a couple of guys that were more like they did it, and I appreciate. I think it was Ariel Helwani who actually who has a close connection to Nick Khan, who actually was like, that is not true. In fact, I can tell you, Nick Khan is having meetings with so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so.
Right.
So I only...
Even so, I'm still thinking that, like, they probably weren't getting that information from nowhere, but...
I don't think it's a guarantee that it doesn't happen. I'm with you. I'm in the belief that as Vince McMahon once said, anything is possible in the WWE. Exactly. It's not a foregone conclusion that the Saudi Arabians are not going to get it.
Right.
So,
and the belief is out there that the Saudi government ended up buying one of the English football teams, right?
Yes.
And that they were expecting some blowback, got relatively none. And the belief is if they buy WWE, there might be some out there that will blow back on it. I will be one of them. But the belief is whatever blowback will be temporary and it's not going to hurt the bottom line. I don't believe that, but
the fact that a Saudi soccer or football club is paying Cristiano Ronaldo $200 million a year to play soccer.
Right.
Ted DiBiase said it best. Everybody's got a price. They want to pay me $200 million. I'll go host the podcast for $200 million a year. A year.
Crazy.
But that's never going to happen, so I got nothing to worry about. But that's my price, $200 million. And what do you got for your brainless this week, Cousin Jay?
I mean, this man is the leader in the clubhouse for brainless of the year, for shitbag of the year. Vince McMahon coming back, doing what he did last week, clearly doing what he did this week, which is force his daughter out of the company, insert his own people into this, and more or less Triple H has to walk around on eggshells as Vince. I bet he's doing his Vince strut into the new Titan Tower right now. He's like going, all right, I don't have to be in the same building as all these people. I paid for this building, damn it.
This is my building, pal.
You know what? I'm just going to put in my chair, my desk, and my dinosaur bones.
Damn it. Get me Bucky Beaver.
Pal. But you know what? If Vince misplays his hand, I hope the hell Triple H goes to like AEW or somewhere and gives Vince the big middle finger and does really well.
It's a crying shame that Freddie Prinze and Triple H don't see eye to eye in creative, considering it was Freddie Prinze Jr.'s idea to push Jeff Hardy right before he failed another drug test, and Triple H was vehemently against it. Otherwise, I'd say that's a matchup that could work. And
I think Freddie Prinze Jr., like, with hindsight right now, would actually be 100% on board with being with Triple H.
I think he would.
Because he said everything Triple H said ended up happening. And he would go back into the company if he ever decided to. I know he's trying to start his own wrestling organization, but I think he would go in there with the humility of like going, you know what, Triple H knows what the hell he's talking about. I want to be part of the process, but he needs to be the head of the whole thing.
Right. And I forgot this too. Another tidbit to add to MJF for my good. Ken Jeong was actually at Dynamite this week, and so was Freddie Prinze Jr., and he shit all over Ken Jeong and called Freddie Prinze Jr. a Scooby-Dooby douchebag. Again, MJF is good. And I'll tell you this much, and it has nothing to do with the fact that we are putting up for vote what the Brainless is going to be on Twitter, because I went completely different. I am holding off judgment until I see how this unfolds. So I'm going to
When is the Judgment Day going to be?
I don't know. Whenever Vince McMahon decides to sell his soul or not. Spooky pals. But for me, I'm giving it to AEW this week. And I'll tell you why. The whole thing with Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné, yes, you completely dropped the ball on that one. Okay? I get that. But also, I saw on Twitter, somebody had posted from a wrestling organization, one of those independent shows that just happened to be in Los Angeles at the same time that AEW was there, and they were handing out their posters and stuff to the AEW fans, and the fans were heckling them and making fun of them and taking the flyers and throwing it on the ground, and all they were just doing was trying to promote their business to wrestling fans, and they just treated them like shit. But on top of the fact that there are AEW fans out there who are clamoring that they actually want Tony Khan and Shad to buy the WWE. Oh, God, there's never been a match I've not wanted to see more on SmackDown in a while. No Knees Knox versus Xia Li. All right, anyway, sorry. But the fact is that there are AEW fans out there that are supporting Tony Khan and his dad buying WWE or doing a partnership with WWE. These are the same people that were crying that Vince McMahon had that same monopoly for 20 years, and now you're wishing it upon us again? I can't. Jay, AEW fans are really, really starting to get on my last nerves. I swear I can't. And you know how I feel about just about everything. You know how I feel about everything. And you know how I feel about every type of whatever. AEW fans are like Cowboy fans. They're like Yankee fans. If we got you know what we call a bus full of AEW fans driving off a cliff? A good start. So if you like what you see, whether you are a first-time watcher or a continuous fan, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like and follow and subscribe to us, we will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra. And make sure you set up notifications for when we go live on our Facebook page so that you will be notified that we are going live, and you can join in the conversation to talk about our favorite sport we all love to hate. And in case y'all haven't been noticing in the past, week and a half, we've been doing a little bit more to kind of put content out there, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, and what the heck you call it? Putting out some reels, putting out some shorts, and we are back on Spotify.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Very awesome.
And, when we do our Brainless every week, we're going to post what
yep.
our and see what the peoples say about Brainless. What was more brainless?
Yep. And to actually add to that, I actually have two pieces of good news that you're going to love. The first thing is the deep brainless dive into Clash 13. Expect that to be posted within the next few days. I'm just getting it proofread. I have a bunch of shit going on this weekend. If in my heart of hearts, in a perfect world, I'm going to try to get it out this weekend. But I would say probably Tuesday, like I posted this past Tuesday with the article with my thoughts for 2023.
Tuesday
and the other
in Texas.
Tuesday in Texas. Texas. So I know that you've been waiting for that. Jay, I'll tell you this much. I don't think I've ever smoked more pot watching a wrestling show than I did in this deep dive.
The big cat, baby. Big cat.
And I'd be lying if I said, spoiler alert, I did go back during the deep dive and watched Primetime Brian Lee leave the Z-Man hanging at least a couple of times. But also, we have to figure out when we can get this in, but the Brainless One has another musical number.
Yeah?
Yeah? I cannot wait. I put a lot of thought into this. You're going to die when you hear this. This might actually top. This is definitely going to blow Great Balls of Fire out of the water. And I'll tell you right now, it might be better. Okay. It might be on the same level as We Didn't Start the Fire.
We didn't start the Mania?
We didn't start the Mania.
All right.
Maybe when we do the
You know what? That you have set the bar high for yourself.
I will say this too, Jay. I think when we do the live show for the Royal Rumble in a couple of weeks, I think that's the perfect time and opportunity for us to play the song, or for me to sing the song. But
okay.
Yeah, so like Jay said, a lot more content coming out. We do this for you guys. But of course, there is one more thing.
What's that, Brainless One? I think we hit everything. Pretty sure we hit everything.
I don't know, Jay. Because did you know today, which happens to be Friday the 13th in 2023, in astonishing 2,910 days, F. Marks Hall of Famer Kyle is still alive in the WWE 2015 Royal Rumble. Wow.
You brainless one yourself there.
It's a shame we already did our brainless because I could have given it to myself right there.
That's all right. We got a leader in the clubhouse for next week.
Hey, do we put it up for vote if we both say I'm still brainless?
Yeah. Yes. Or we could put in our, if we have a week where we agree upon it, we could like put in the good. What was better this week?
Or we could just do all three if they're all different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, for episode 295 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the F. Marks.
I'm Jay.
And I am the brainless one. Make sure you.
I messed it up.
No,
I brainless one myself. Like you brainless one, now I'm brainless one. So leaders in the clubhouse.
Hey, it's either that or we clean the slate free.
The clean slate.
Clean slate. And make sure you mark out.
With your guac out. See you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of SmackDown. We will see you next week. And let's see if we have some more hold my beer moments from Vince this week.
I'm going to say so far how 2023 is going, that's a safe bet.
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, whatever. Watch.
Yeah.
I figured as much.
Later, everyone.
Yeah.
Later, Jay.
Later, cousin Bobby.
Yeah.